I've been trying to work through that. So here's some possibilities. You tell me what you think about this. So I would say if the person who's developing the vision is trying to impose their vision on you by force, then they're not good leaders. And if they're trying to terrify you into adopting their vision, so they use fear, then they're not good leaders. They're good leaders if they offer you a vision like you offered your wife, which is, here's a possible game. What do you think of it? And would you like to voluntarily play? If someone can do that, then they're a leader you can trust, at least, assuming they're playing a straight game. And so the rule is, if the person is using power and compulsion or fear, then their vision is unreliable. And so I think that's even true if there is a crisis. You don't get to terrify people. They have to invite them. So what do you think about that? What's your first response to that?
Yeah, I think that I'd say that it's obvious that at the core of anyone's motive is really it's either love or hate. It's either that it's something that's obviously benefiting people, that people are excited to promote themselves, but then there are a lot of things you see implemented that are they can be very well disguised, but at their core they are fear-based. Either in a sense of intimidation or in a sense of maybe false sense of urgency. Like I've experienced that myself now, just with my career opportunities. Like, you've got to do this now, and it's perceived in a way that's supposed to be helping me, but it really is it's driven off the human emotion of fear. And so I think that's the way to ultimately understand if something is, like in your case, if something is genuine and authentic,
the
or
real
not,
thing
is what human emotion is it being driven off of? Is it being driven off of love and ambition, or is it being driven more off of hate and fear? I mean, that's really the core of everything in the world, right? But I'd say that's trying to dissect that is a whole nother animal. But ultimately, everything,
it is.
It's all driven off of everything's driven off of very basic emotion, I'd say, at its core.
Well, and you said false sense of urgency. I actually think this even applies in a true sense of urgency, because the climate people, for example, might say, oh my God, there's an apocalyptic catastrophe pending. It's real. And it's so urgent that here are the following measures must be taken. Okay, so we could take that argument. We could say, well, look, even if it is a true emergency, let's give you that, which isn't something I'm generally willing to do, by the way. But in any case, for the sake of argument, we'll say, okay, there is an actual emergency here. I would still say, if your response to that emergency is that you're now willing to wield fear as the cudgel of power, then you're too little a man for the job. Is that if the crisis has terrified you into becoming a tyrant, then you're facing a dragon that you can't defeat. And so you're not the right guy. I think even when there is a crisis, you should lead people with faith and hope and not with power and fear. And that's a way of distinguishing the real, true leaders, let's say, from the false prophets, so to speak.